So my father never talked about the experience because I am sure that a lot of this is trauma that he never, never saw a therapist, or it's just embedded in him. And that's how he dealt with it. He just sort of, hid it from us. But at one point, he was in front of a firing squad. This is when Batista was still in power. He had been jailed for his, anti-Batista activity. And at one point, they had jailed him and they took him and they had him in front of a firing squad. He came seconds from death. It just so happened that a general that drove by knew my grandfather, who was a judge in Cienfuegos and a well-known member of the community. And so he recognized my father as Pedro Casamayor's son and said, why are you holding that man? Why do you have that man in front of a firing squad? Release him at once. So I never would have existed if this man had not stepped in and saved his life. And this is something that I never knew. The reason I found out about this is my father's sister told me this story. She says, did you know that your dad, da, da, da? And she started telling me stories about his activism and his involvement in both the anti-Batista and anti-Castro movement. And, but this is something I never knew. A lot of this explains anxiety and angst passed down from your parents to you, because we are the product. I do wholeheartedly believe that we are the product, and a lot of generational mental anguish comes from your parents' experiences, from your grandparents' experiences. It's passed down. I've done a lot of work to overcome generational anxiety and things like that, just from reading and taking part in working with a life coach and things like that. Not to forget it, but to learn to not have it affect me so much in a negative way. It's still there. It still has impact in my life, but it doesn't have to rule my life. Just to give you a little snippet of my first few weeks of life,
Sure.
because this is a story that I found out from my mother one time when I was interrogating her about those first days. When I was a month old, Bay of Pigs happened, and the bombs were falling near our house. My mom could hear the bombs. And so I was just a month old. She ran with me to the kitchen and performed an emergency baptism with tap water. And the good Catholic that she was.
Totally.
And then she ran to a neighbor's house because they had a 2-story house. So she thought we would be safer on the bottom floor than in our little house in Punta Gorda. Reading many years later about childhood trauma, I started digging why I have so much anxiety and angst and things like that. And I came across a study about trauma during childhood and your first months of life. Mm-hmm. And so immediately this image came to mind that this has affected me my entire life. All the struggles within the first 6 months of my life that were embedded in me. And that explains a lot of my colors and bold and harsh colors. There's a lot of angst in my work, but I use my work as therapy.
Do you remember the actual leaving, like when you left?
I do remember, and it's very vivid because I had to leave my dog. And so that crushed me. it was like at that moment, yes, we were leaving family and friends behind, but at that moment, all I could think of was my poor doggy thinks I'm abandoning him. Now, we left him with my uncle, and he had a wonderful long life and was spoiled rotten. But to me, it was the end of the world, leaving my dog, abandoning my dog is the way I saw it. So that's one of these memories that is just been with me my entire life. Yeah.
Are there any other memories that you can recall sort of around that time period?
Yes, because when you're 12 years old and you're surrounded by family and friends, and then you leave, you don't think that that was the last time you saw them. So, family members that passed away after that, it's just one of those things that, you think if I'd known, or if only I could have seen them one more time. So just through the years, family members that we've lost, and I didn't have a chance to see them again. That's part of the territory of moving from your homeland. Yeah.
How was that experience of learning a new language at 12?
Um, it was very tough, but I was determined that I would communicate. So it was that need to communicate that made it possible. I mean, like I remember one time, our teacher was out, and everybody, the other kids in our ESL group, were thinking, how are we going to tell her that this is what we do, and da da da. I said, well, I'll tell her.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember telling our substitute, or relaying to her somehow that we had a snack break and that she needed to take us to the cafeteria for our break,
Yeah.
and then for recess. And so I was the designated leader that day, that
Yeah.
I would communicate with the substitute what our schedule was like. And so that's really one of the first times that I remember thinking, oh, I can do this. I can communicate.
That's fantastic.
And but it was, it's from a need to communicate. There are some people that shut down. One of my brothers went through the silent period, and he's younger than me, so he just did not speak for over a year, did not communicate. In my case, I was determined to be heard.